I actually haven't made one of these list videos on colour from home in well over a month, as I was planned ahead for quite some time to cope with going abroad. Before I got into planning this video, I decided to look back over my output, and a couple of things struck me. First of all, that the sound quality seems to be going awry between my local files and getting onto YouTube. Please let me know if I've managed to fix that. And secondly, that I've made a lot of videos on coloured dials, but actually managed to miss out my favourite colour, green. I figured it was time to do something about that. So join me if you will, as I try to uncover what I believe to be the 10 best green dial watches that money can buy below $1,000. As per usual, I will have a simple set of rules to help guide me. The watches have to be available at the time of writing below $1,000. And if those prices are second hand, I will flag that up. Of course, the dials have to be green, though I will allow gradients as long as green is the primary colour. And finally, for the sake of variety, each brand can only feature once on the list. I will also add that I'm writing this as Black Friday approaches, and while we can discuss whether or not the whole premise is a scam or not, there are a lot of sale prices featured here that may not be available if you're watching this at a later date. With all that said, let's get into the video. Long-term viewers of the channel will have heard me rave about this piece multiple times before, but I really do think this is the best cost to dial quality that money can buy, especially if you want something green. It might not be hand finished, but the texture, radiance and pattern are all fantastic. Offset with the rich gold tone of the hands and indices, and the colour really pops. And though I've tried my best, the camera just doesn't do the in-person experience justice. One great thing about the Cocktail Time range is that there are alternatives, and all of them are really strong offerings. If the Mojito doesn't do it for you, the Matcha is a great colour matched option with a rich textured dial. It is a limited edition though, and comes in around $80 more expensive than the Mojito. I always and ah about including the PRX on any of my lists, as it feels like a watch that doesn't necessarily need suggesting as it's so well known already. However, in the case of green dials, I think I would be doing it a real disservice by not featuring it simply for the amount of choice it gives to you. You can pick between 35 and 40mm sizes, a quartz movement or the Powermatic 80, which is a Swiss-made automatic, and you can also choose between a variety of different dial options, all in green. There are mint-coloured variants, a deep sunburst green, the dark waffle patterned original, and then light green alternatives. That level of choice is something that being from such a large brand offers. But make no mistake, this is a popular piece for a reason. It has a lot going for it. A 70s inspired sports watch with top-notch build quality, a solid choice of movements, and a textured dial if you want one, all for well under $1,000. And to top that off, it's Swiss-made too. Pretty difficult to argue with. The Oceanographer can be a bit of a Marmite piece for some people. You either love it or you hate it. The minute and hour hands do look a little stubby because they have to fit inside the raised indices, and the model only really works for larger wrists at 44mm in diameter. If this is Marmite though, I definitely fall on the side of loving this watch, and but for the size, I would definitely own one. Aesthetically, I think the visual balance is spot on with the dial. Everything feels like it's the right size and in the right place. From the print work to the applied logo, and yes, for me, even the hands and indices. That is combined with a beautiful cushioned case, square cyclops, sapphire crystal and colour matching bezel. What a colour too, by the way. Not every image does it justice. When this catches the light, it's a really beautiful tone. This is Nodus's take on a skin diver, which is a dive watch with a lower depth rating than professional counterparts, but with a more refined design as a compromise. This tends to make them more popular for everyday wear. This model features a Seiko NH38 movement, flat top sapphire crystal, and X1 grade superluminova, all wrapped up in a 39mm case. It's available with either a steel or black DLC bezel. The black bezel comes at a $30 premium, but to be honest, I think the steel dial matches the model much better aesthetically. The real selling point, as with many Nodus pieces, is the coloration. This Seafoam dial is absolutely stunning. It has a subtle and bright gradient that pairs really well with the high polish of the beads of rice bracelet. I'll be upfront, there aren't a huge number of freely available images of this watch, and I can only apologise for that. I'd recommend the video from Watch Chris if you're interested in a detailed review of this model. The theme here is all about patina, the patterns formed by the oxidization of metal. The dial has been hand patinaed in-house to produce a green dial literally unlike any other. Each watch is effectively a piece unique. The dial is actually a sandwich, with the bottom plate holding the recessed lume. Then on top of that sits the hand patinaed dial, which is then finally covered by a sapphire outline of the printwork and indices. This gives the dial an added dimension of depth, which complements its patinaed look perfectly. The case of the watch is also bronze, and that too will naturally patina to match the dial over time. A sense of patriotism came over me while researching this video, and I decided that I desperately wanted to feature a British racing green model on the list. The decision actually wasn't a difficult one, as Benjamin James are now offering an automatic model of their first release, the Scarifour, in that colourway, and it's a real beauty. A sunburst dial with some texture, a Cartier inspired shape, and some incredible finishing across its beveled edges. I'm going to award this model with the recommendation for the video, as it's the watch I'm most interested in buying myself. Actually getting hold of one is tougher than it should be though, as this micro brand produces in limited numbers and sells out extremely quickly. The James brand is a well-respected producer of everyday carry items for men, in particular knives and accessories. If I'm honest, I'm not much for that. I don't even carry a wallet, so I had never heard of them before this watch. But I will say that I can fully appreciate why people love everyday carry items. A watch is clearly a core component of that, and so a collaboration with Timex makes perfect sense. While a lot more expensive than your regular Timex offering, this sold out almost immediately. Like I say, the James brand is well respected. This is a titanium model with sapphire crystal, a Miyota 9075 GMT movement, and 200 meters of water resistance, with quite an unusual but nonetheless easy on the eye emerald green tone to the dial. This colourway is known as Hunter Green, and is described by Christopher Ward as having a hand-distressed ombre finish. Essentially, that is a very polite way of saying the dial looks like someone has had at it with a razor blade. Regardless of which way you put it across, the dial looks incredible. I am a sucker for texture, and I know there are those that hate the trend for fake aging a product. I can understand that viewpoint, but any watch dial that looks great from a distance and only gets more interesting the closer you get is all good in my book. When you throw in the coloration, the updated branding, the quality control, a Swiss movement, and indeed Swiss made on the dial, I think this suddenly becomes a very compelling overall package that's difficult to ignore. As a value proposition, for this watch to make sense, you've either got to really value US assembly and regulation, as while there are some really nice premium features here, the fact is these specs are available elsewhere for less, or you've got to love the look and feel of this watch, which is ultimately the reason I've chosen to include it. The ceramic bezel insert really matches well with the rich tone of the dial, and I love the little colour accents on the end of the second hand and with the entire GMT hand. This isn't a cheap offering, but I think it pulls its weight so heavily in the looks department that it still looks more expensive than it actually is. I've had a Super Seawolf in my collection, and I'm always on the hunt for another in a more vibrant colour, as I went for something that was far too tame given the overall nature of the collection. The nice thing about this is there are actually 3 appealing green Super Seawolf models: the Pineapple, the Aquamarine Dream, and the Diver Green. None of them particularly conventional in their use of colour, and all 3 guarantee to stand out on wrist. There's also the white neon version with lime green accents, if that floats your boat. To get one of these under $1,000 will take patience though, as you'll be hunting for them on the second-hand market to fit under the price point. If colour is your main consideration though, you won't find better than a Super Seawolf under budget. So there we have it. What are, in my opinion, the 10 best green dial watches that money can buy for under $1,000. In my other videos, I've thought carefully about not being too repetitive and repeating watches that I might have discussed elsewhere. Where green is my favourite colour, I've been a lot more direct with this list. Let me know what you think. Are there some gems in here? Do you think that there are any other models that I've missed out that are more deserving? And do you have any experiences with any of these watches that you'd like to share? Let me know in the comments section below. I would just like to add an honourable mention for the 2 green dial variants of the Erebus Ascent, particularly the Malachite, which I wanted to feature, but there just aren't enough image of it available online to make it viable to feature in a video format like this, and I'd already really struggled with the Selten. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this.